Things that go doink in the night. Dennis rolled over and snuffled slightly, then adjusted his head so that it rested fully on the pillow. It was pitch black, save for the dim reflections of some street lighting from a faraway road, the sort of light that you couldn't really tell was there unless your eyes were accustomed to it. Beside Dennis, his wife Jacqueline slept almost peacefully, the sound of gentle snoring coming from a beautiful yet stupefied face. One of her arms clamped over her unprotected ear. From outside came a noise that made Dennis come to slightly. It sounded a bit like something was crawling through the undergrowth. It stopped, and Dennis settled down again, smiling as he snuggled ever closer to the mattress, enveloped as he was by the duvet. After 20 seconds or so, the sound started again. Dennis's eyes snapped open in concern. In his experience, animals tended to be stealthy. That made him come to the conclusion that this noise was man-made, and therefore worthy of further investigation. Very carefully, so as not to wake Jacqueline, Dennis drew back the duvet and sat up on the bed. Then he drew himself to his full height, pulled back the curtain slightly, and slipped in between the fabric and the window. He couldn't see much happening in the garden, so he carefully and deliberately released the lock and slowly opened the window out into the dark world outside. Once opened, Dennis paused, allowing his eyes to become accustomed to the low light levels. While he waited, it became clear that there was nothing moving around below. Once Dennis could see a bit better, he scanned around as much as he could, but there didn't appear to be anything or anyone there. Slightly annoyed at not being able to determine what had caused the noise, Dennis slowly and silently closed the window before retiring to the bathroom for a much-needed wee. Once finished in the bathroom, he returned to his side of the bed and tried, rather unsuccessfully at first, to return to his slumbers. Dennis was on the verge of unconsciousness when there was another noise, the same type as before, but this time louder and longer. He lay there for a few seconds, debating whether to bother getting up at all, when there came another sound. The sound was very distinct, and Dennis knew immediately what it was and how it had been made. It could only mean one thing, that someone or something was stood directly outside the back door. The house builder had managed to drop from the back door to the garden by stacking a single height line of bricks under a pair of paving slabs. These had stayed in place for many years until Dennis had cause, he couldn't remember what that particular cause was now, to move the slabs. When he returned them, they didn't sit quite right and made a doink noise every time someone stood on them. Try as he might, Dennis couldn't stop the slabs from doinking and gave up. He and Jacqueline had joked that it was their early warning system if anyone ever tried to break in via the back door, and they let it stay as it was. The fact that it made that noise now made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up, and he quickly and silently stood up, grabbed his phone, and was back opening the window. He could see nothing the same as before, but this time he was prepared. Breathing hard and fast with excitation, Dennis switched the flashlight on his phone on and shone it directly at the rear door below. Nothing. Dennis mentally scratched his head. He'd heard it, clear as day. Then he became worried about holding his phone above the ground and the risk of dropping it and smashing to pieces, particularly as he'd enjoyed a couple of drams the night before. He gripped the phone tightly and began shining the beam along the outside of the house and came to a rest directly below him. What he saw there made his concerned, desperate visage changed into a great big, contented smile. Below him, about 1 metre long, gently snuffling along the wall of the house, was a rather large and inquisitive badger. Dennis grinned delightedly as the badger stopped sniffing and made a rather noisy exit under the gate next to his neighbour on the other side. From further up the side of the house came the noise of additional sniffing and general rooting about, and Dennis realised that this was not a solitary visit. Still smiling, Dennis closed the window and slowly and gently returned to his bed, placing the phone on the bedside table as he did. Badgers? Here? They lived almost right next to the centre of town, so the badgers would have to travel quite some distance to visit the house. Dennis had visions of a big badger expedition setting off from the woods on the edge of town, snuff-to-gating as they went. As he fell asleep, Dennis had a grin from ear to ear. He was looking forward to telling his wife all about the events in the night time when they both woke up in the morning.